Hello everyone, odedex here, welcome to episode 153 of my S02E153 Let's Play. So as you can see, I'm making my way to my red power quarry for a couple of reasons. The first one is pretty much to just make sure that everything is still running, even though for the past many episodes I pretty much got to the point where the red power quarry is pretty much permanently working without any problems, but every so often I like coming here to make sure that still that is the case, there is no trouble with anything, and all that good stuff. And also to make sure that kind of in the near future there are no Mistcraft libraries or anything that may accidentally block the quarry on top level of the surface. And as you can see, that doesn't seem to be the case, so that's pretty good. And the second reason I came here is because since the previous episode I changed the way I manage creosote oil. In this episode I actually want to change the entire way I make tracks, and since my red power quarry on its own doesn't use tracks, but I have this track placement system kind of tied to it, so in its essence it's still using tracks. I kind of want to turn off the quarry so there are no tracks being asked by the system while my production line is kind of broken. Even though I should have a very nice and healthy backlog of everything, I still don't want any of those things being asked at the same time. And just the same, since I turned off my red power quarry, I'm also going to turn off my small nether mining project. And well, obviously the cart at the moment is at the nether mining, but the next time it comes here, since this is powered off, the cart won't be able to go through and it will simply stop. So that's that. So now I can finally begin with my little project. It's kind of a little sidetrack from my current liquid warehouse giant project. Just wanna quickly overhaul this entire thing to make this kind of more uniform with the rest of my systems and use this creosote oil a little bit more efficiently, because at the moment, since I'm crafting those wooden ties using a wooden Buildcraft pipe, it kind of has that small problem where the backlogs don't exactly work the way I want them to work, and as a result, I'm very far away from it, but as a result, eventually when this wooden rail bed storage area will be filled up, and this chest will be filled up with wooden ties, there will start being some spillage. This probably will take an eternity to get there, but still, it's kind of logically wrong. So I don't really like those things when they are like this. So let's change that. So before I begin, actually, if you don't understand why am I changing this, at the moment you may see there's some applied logistics interaction with everything. But also there are fabricators, and there are some of those hoppers and some red power stuff. And this is kind of a hybrid between two different projects, like two different phases of the project, which resulted in this, which is the use of fabricators and kind of this silly business going on here. So let's start changing it. So essentially, I'm still gonna kind of resupply this ender storage with a stack of one of each. One track and one booster track. I may change that eventually, but that still is the idea. The only thing that's changing is the way I craft everything. Now, I'm probably going to still use this area as the crafting location, but pretty much anything else changes. So let's start breaking stuff. So I'm going to keep this here. The carpenter will still remain here, but things are going to still start changing. So I'm going to simply start breaking stuff, and yeah, I'm gonna see what I'm breaking. So I'm gonna need to fix my production line of wooden ties, the production line of wooden rail beds. Ooh, the game just froze there for a second. Wooden rail beds, the production line of normal trucks, the production of booster trucks, and also the production of those two components, the advanced rails and the standard rails. Now, rolling machines have kind of inherent built-in system to handle automatic crafting very nicely. You'll see it once I get to it, which is actually very, very convenient and very good for me. So let's start emptying things into the rest of my applied logistics network. And yeah, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and basically break everything. So, be right back. Okay, so just broke everything and just got left here with all of this mess. And this is pretty much the reason why I'm rebuilding this, because there was these intricate lines of tubes and covers and cables and everything, and this is why I really didn't like it. Okay, so let's start building it. This is pretty much going back to my original, basically the rest of my network. This at the moment is disconnected, so you can see charcoal and coal coke are not being extracted, but it's still gonna cook the existing material, so it's fine. So I'm gonna have this wireless access point here and an interface to dump things into whenever I need them, so I can build this without going back and forth between my place. So let's get started. So let's do it actually from the back going forward. So eventually I'm going to add the crafting of tracks and booster tracks, and both of them are basically crafting grid recipes. So let's add those two recipes first. So let's get some blank patterns here, and I'm gonna need some rails, some standard rails first and some advanced rails as well, and some wooden rail beds and some redstone. So some wooden rail beds and redstone. So this is the standard rail recipe, creates 32. And the special booster track recipe with redstone creates 16. So I'm gonna add those two recipes to my molecular assembler. Now at some point I'm also gonna add a self-resupply system to automatically make sure that I have enough of both, but not yet. I first want to make sure that I have the entire production line taken care of as well. So this is the carpenter that will be creating wooden ties. Now I'm gonna add, let's get an interface and a relay and some of those birchwood slabs, and actually add a custom recipe that will create them on demand and not constantly create them, because I want to have a backlog of creosote oil and I don't want to be overloaded with those unnecessary amount of wooden ties. So I'm gonna create a custom recipe and pretty much set it up similarly to what I've been doing with the honey recipes and the seed oil recipes, which is use a relay from the side. So I'm gonna create the recipe, custom recipe, that's gonna say that with 3 wooden birchwood slabs you get 3 wooden ties. So I'm going to need some wooden ties as an example. Should have 1. Yeah, I should actually have 3. So if you give me 3 slabs, you get back 3 of those, and that's a custom recipe. So encode that manually and add that to the carpenter. So the relay will be coming from the side, just like this, and there will be the interface right here with the custom recipe. So now I've got the creation of wooden ties. Now the wooden rail beds are simply again another normal crafting recipe, so let's introduce that. Whoops. So 4 of those give you this, and add that as well, and I'm simply gonna quickly go ahead and sleep to get the night over. Okay, so I've got wooden rail beds, I've got the wooden ties taken care of, and the carpenter itself has a supply of energy, of oil, and of the actual recipe itself when it needs it. The actual creosote oil supply will eventually dry out, and that's fine. The only thing I still need to take care of is actually to extract everything out of it. So I think I actually better just move the energy tesseract away from here. Let's place this tank right here instead, and I'm gonna have the energy coming from elsewhere. Let's first complete the rest of everything and then decide on how I wanna get this done. I need some cobblestone to fill up all those empty holes, which are actually very, very annoying. Yeah, let me quickly fill everything up. I really don't like having all those holes all around the place. Okay, so it's a little bit more bearable. Left this so I can access my interface and wireless access. Okay, so I've got carpenter crafting ready, except for energy, but energy is going to come last. So if I backtrack the steps of a normal truck, now I'm going to take care of standard rails. Standard rails are created using a rolling machine with either bronze or iron. I'm going to use iron. There is really no reason not to use iron. And the rolling machine is actually a very convenient tool. Oh, actually, I forgot something. I forgot to use an import bus. It's actually kind of big. I forgot to add that to the carpenter. So let's do that. So let's add the import bus to the side. It will be always on. It will move stack at a time. Okay, so on the side of this, I'm going to place my rolling machine. And the rolling machine is actually interesting. I'm just going to start setting it up and you'll understand what's going on. So rolling machines, when they have energy, you have this recipe. If they have energy, I can just click here to craft, and it's going to use those 6 iron ingots in the process, and it's going to get rid of the pattern. But if I input iron ingots into the rolling machine, either being with applied logistics or Buildcraft pipes, I think Red Power actually has some issues with it, but it works with Buildcraft pipes or hoppers. The rolling machine automatically evenly distributes everything in between the existing slots. It will ignore the empty slots. And if it has more than one of each item, it will craft the item automatically. So this is kind of the trick that I'm going to use here. So what I'm going to do is actually place an interface right on top of it. And I'm going to tell that a rolling machine that if you give me, I think the recipe is 6 iron gives you 8 standard rails. So if you give me 6 iron, I'm going to give you back 8 standard rails. Now you can see that on purpose I didn't distribute the iron ingots evenly like the recipe pattern, because it doesn't make any difference. The interface will output those ingots and the rolling machine will automatically evenly distribute them on its own. So I don't need to take care of that. So I'm going to place the recipe right here, and again place another import bus that will be always on and move a stack at a time. So that's taken care of, and this is why I wanted to change everything, because previously there was this intricate network of tubes and everything running around, but when I use applied logistics, this oversimplifies everything. So that's the standard rail. Now let's make the booster rail, the special booster rail. Whoops. So let's place it right here as well. Can already place the import bus that will be always active and move a stack at a time. And this booster rail requires gold, redstone, and standard rails. So I'm going to need redstone, standard rails, and some gold. Let's also actually already make the actual recipe. So 3, 3, and 3 gives you 8. So 8 of those are crafted using 3 golden ingots, 3 redstone, oops, only 3, not 4, 3 redstone, and 3 standard rails. Let's place this again here and make this a unique pattern. And I'm gonna simply place it on top, but in the new interface, because it just used 2. Okay, so let's take that, place it again on top. Let's actually place it on the side. I don't want it to accidentally interact with this. And as far as I know, the rolling machine will accept input from any side. I'm going to check that eventually, but it should work no problem. Let's make the recipe. So 3 those, 3 of those, and 3 of those will give you this recipe. And this interface now has the pattern. And I actually think I'm done, quite surprisingly. Yeah, I've got standard rails, I've got wooden rail beds, I've got advanced rails, wooden rail beds, and redstone, and that's pretty much it. So this is how I made this little bit intricate project into this tiny, simple thing. Now I'm gonna actually first connect everything together and make sure that it works before declaring it as working. So let's kind of find a nice way to connect everything. Let's have this here. and this just going here. Oh, actually gonna need to connect some energy as well. Forgot about that. So let's get something going. So this actually looks like a good idea. So let's place a tesseract right here. It will be, no, that's gonna be quite not so good actually. Let's have the tesseract right here. That will be buildcraft energy. It will be receiving only. And that redstone energy conduit, this one will be on extraction mode. And the rest of them will be by default on normal, blue mode. And all of those machines should receive energy. All of them shouldn't do anything. Well, actually this one should start crafting some wooden ties because it has a backlog of creosote oil and all of those birch wood slabs. Actually get rid of them if I really want to. But it really doesn't make any difference. And let's simply connect the rest of it to the applied logistics network. This is kind of a temporary setup. I'm going to make it look a little bit nicer, but just something temporary so I can check that it's actually working. Let's see. Can I craft everything that I want to craft? Some tracks. Actually, some rails. Okay, so at the moment I got 58. If I ask to craft one, the supply of standard rails go down. It all being inputted into the crafting machine, and now I have 8. Awesome. And actually, by default, you should already see that I can actually should be able to craft standard rails as well. But you know what? The best way to check it is actually to craft the tracks themselves. So at the moment, I got 512 booster tracks. If I go to crafting recipes and ask for one, it's going to craft 16 because I cannot craft one. But it should go through the process of crafting all of those the tracks and rails, and you can see it already gave me 528. And if I would have wanted to test crafting normal tracks, that would be kind of a problem because I have a giant backlog of standard rails in the inventory, but that should be working as well. So finally, I've got some copper ore here apparently. Finally, let's complete everything together so I can dump all those type of backlog items back into the network. And similarly to what I had in my HV solar array, as a result of not using applied logistics and actually using fabricators and other items in the crafting network, it actually results in having a ton of the backlog components. So what that means, I have a ton of those rails where actually I don't need any of them, and I have a ton of those wooden rail beds which I don't need any of them. At least not in that state. I need them in the process of crafting, but not just lying around like this. And it actually means that for quite some time, this small factory here won't do anything, and they actually will only craft tracks manually, because I don't need any of that. But whenever I do eventually need it, it will start crafting. Okay, so let me actually go ahead and make things a little bit more nice to the eyes, and actually also complete this small thing. You know what? Let's do this first. Let's add whatever I need to add. So I'm gonna actually add another regulator. So far I've been using one regulator, but I want to change that to actually what's similar to what I've been doing in my cargo management right here, which I have a regulator for each item. Every separate item has its own regulator. So I want to change that to be working the same way. So get one additional regulator. Just ask to craft one. Why is it taking so long? Okay, let's go sleep first then. Okay, so I've got my additional regulator. Let's move things around a little bit. So let's have this chest right here. And let's remove this regulator. So let's have the regulator right here and here. They will be facing outwards, of course, like this. And this regulator will be regulating a stack of tracks. Let's get a little bit more stacks of each. That will make sure that I have a stack of tracks in the adjacent inventory, and it will be able to keep an inner inventory of one stack. And the same for this one, just with booster tracks. And I'm gonna need Should I use filters or transposers here? Use filter, no, I don't need filters. I can use transposers, simpler. So let's get 2 transposers, and I'm going to need 2 interfaces, and that should be enough, and actually some tubes as well. So some pneumatic tubes. So that transposer will be, oh, I can actually use filters and use only one interface. Okay, so let's do that then. So this goes away, get filters. So they will be facing the same direction right here. Okay, let's get rid of this. So this will be here, this will be here. So this is a tube, this is also a tube. This is this, and I'm going to cover to make sure that they're separate. So cover. Okay, and whoops, this should be filter, not an interface. This is accepting tracks, so this filter will take tracks out. One at a time, doesn't really matter. This one will take booster tracks, and each of those will be the export config will be telling the system to make sure that there is one of each at any given time. Of course, if the system doesn't have enough, it will force the system to craft some more of them. And finally, I'm just going to need some sort of a signal to make sure that those 2 filters are constantly running. Let's get a timer. I took out the wireless access point. So let's get a timer and some alloy wire, red alloy wire, and probably should also get some cobblestone to have something to build on. So this goes here, this will be this, and this is a timer. So that's pretty much taken care of. Nothing happens because it's not connected. So finally, I've got the resupply module working, I've got the auto crafting module working. Let's just connect everything. I'm going to go ahead and quickly do this off screen, and I'll be right back. Okay, so connected the coke ovens together to this system, and the actual connection point I decided will be right here. So coming down from this import bus, I'm going down here, back here, and pretty much back to the original access point that I had here. And this, I removed all the cables that I had here for, well, obvious reasons. I don't need any of that cable. And if I cover everything back up again to make everything look a little bit nicer, this system is pretty much good and ready to go. So I've got, again, nothing new here. Still, I used to have track production, and I still have track production. This is nothing new, but just a little bit more clean in my opinion. A little bit more organized. And for some reason I'm not exporting anything. And why is that? Why are the filters not doing anything? Oh wait, they're rotated. Okay, now it should be working. So this is working, this should also be working. Okay, there we go. So the filters are filling up the regulators with the respected tracks. The inner chest will get filled up with whatever it needs to get filled up. Those ME interfaces will get filled up always with the tracks, the booster track and normal track. This small production area will make sure that I have all the components to create more tracks when I need them, although at the moment I don't because I have the giant backlog of them, including the wooden ties. And actually, the final note of everything is now I can actually finally build up creosote oil. Because now, whenever I don't need any wooden rail beds, it's not going to use any creosote oil. So the final result is actually kind of in favor of my warehouse, of my liquid warehouse, because now eventually I can start building up creosote oil. In the previous setup I couldn't. So even though I said it's gonna be a slight deviation from my liquid warehouse project, it ended up being in favor of it because now I can actually build up creosote oil. So yeah, let's just also actually reinstate the wireless access point, which I used to have here. So let's break this, for example, place this instead, and add the booster. And that's pretty much it. This is done. Now I can actually reignite the mining cart and also turn on the red power quarry again. Now the trip the trip to the quarry itself actually takes a while. It actually takes about a minute or so. So it's actually quite fun. Although the scenery doesn't change, all you see is this giant empty quarry, and you got this giant railroad track, straight one, going directly there. Okay, so I've got one more remaining Zycraft tank in my warehouse, and to be honest, there are a couple of like. Can I actually filter out liquids? Is that a thing? Although yeah, I don't think I can. Anyway, I've got a couple of ideas. Mainly, if you ignore all the B liquids, I've got, I think, only apple juice left and milk. And there might be some other things. I've got oil. Trying to figure out what am I missing. Of course, there are all those extra bees liquids, such as acid and poison and nitrogen and all that good stuff. There we go. We got, oh wait, those are, what? Molten gold, molten diamond, molten emerald. How do you melt diamond? Yeah, I think that's kind of something like half-made or something, I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm gonna go for the last tank. I'm gonna actually hopefully finish it in this episode. I'm gonna go ahead and create actually a milk tank, a liquid milk tank. And I'm gonna start dealing with apple juice in the next episode, and probably in the following one as well. Pretty much because apples are kind of a resource that I've never properly harvested before. And I have a couple of ideas on how to actually get them, but there is no a real nice way to get them. Now, of course, I can use scrap boxes to get them, but that's kind of irrelevant. And yeah, they're kind of a mess. I'm gonna come up with a way to get them efficiently, but not today. Actually, at the moment, I just wanna quickly finish getting milk. So milk pretty much is kind of very easy to get when you think about it. All you need is a cow, and you need to constantly milk it, and you need to place that milk into the tank. That's actually a lot easier to do than you might think. I'm going to need a gravity gun. I'm going to need some fences. Let's get some fences, and I'm going to get my gravity gun. And let's go ahead and turn the trap back on. I will need, okay, I'm going to do some trickery here, but let's do this. So go through, turn on the trap, so quickly change the rules of one of those AND gates, and I want a cow, not a golem. Okay, let's get this cow, the lucky one. You're gonna stay alive, although you're gonna be milked until you'll probably wanna die. So that's that. Let's have the milking kind of nearby. Let's place it somewhere close. Let's have it right about here or something. So it's kind of nearby to an applied logistics network. So I'm gonna have a small pen right here. This can go away. Don't think the cow probably gonna stay there. It's not gonna fall down. Cows are a little bit more smart than they may look. Okay, so I'm gonna need a deployer. And I'm gonna need an import bus. And I'm gonna need an export bus. And okay, I'm gonna stick to that at the moment. I've got bucket production already, I think. So that's fine. Let's have the deployer right here. And I'm gonna need some sort of block to make sure that she doesn't jump on it. So let's get just a glass or something. Okay, and let's get the actual cow. So unfortunately, cow, for you, this is gonna be your new home. You're gonna be stuck here. And actually, instead of the glass, I'm going to change that to an export bus. So this now will be an export bus. This will be an import bus. Let's get some buckets. Can craft buckets, so that's fine. Let's just get 2 to begin with. This export bus will be always on, and it will be either moving or crafting buckets. And this import bus will only import milk buckets. Always on, one at a time, because it's not stackable anyway. And on the bottom of everything, I'm gonna have a timer that will simply make the deployer constantly tick. So let's get a timer. 1. That will constantly tick. Let's have it by default to 2 seconds, that's fine. So any bucket goes in here will constantly be changed into milk buckets, and basically full buckets won't do anything. Apparently milk buckets can generate 40,000 microjoules, however over 40,000 ticks. That's quite a long time. But that's kind of irrelevant. So using some cables, let's connect everything together. So the system will start now producing milk buckets. It will constantly produce milk buckets and import them back into the system. Now I'm going to actually have some rules here, but because at the moment as it stands right now, it's going to constantly create milk buckets. So this is going to need to be changed eventually, but for the time being, let's keep it like that. And what I'm actually going to do with the milk buckets is I've got a couple of options. But I think what I'm going to do is actually this. I'm going to directly place them into this multi-tank. So this is going to be working. I'm going to get some cables in here. Or should I use... No, let's just get some cables, although it's going to be very ugly. There's no other choice, really. Okay, so going from the top, I think multi-tanks can interact with inventories on any one of them. Like any block of the ReCrafting tank can actually interact with some sort of item management. So let's try and do that. So let's have... I've got a bunch of cables on me already. Let's get an export. No, I don't like the way it looks. That's the problem. Let's see. Okay, you know what? Looking at the episode length, I'm not going to probably finish the milk project at the moment. It's going to have to be delayed until the next episode. I'm going to come up with a nice way to make it look so I don't have to have cables kind of running all over this place, making this look significantly uglier than I expected it to look. So it's going to wait a little bit, but I'm going to come up with a nice way to make it look and hopefully finish it by the next episode. So as always, thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you guys next time.